Hello, my name is Rosa Huffman, and I'm a senior at the Agnes Irwin School in Rosemont, Pennsylvania. Today, I will be talking about the Central American immigration, specifically the strategy introduced by the Biden-Harris administration in the summer of 2021. The strategy is called the U.S. Strategy for Addressing the Root Causes of Migration in Central America, but is more commonly known as the Root Causes Strategy. My inspiration for getting involved in Polygence emerged from my love of languages and the study of different cultures. I have a passion for international relations and immigration, and I wanted to create a project that extended my learning beyond traditional classroom settings and design something with real-world applications that combine my various interests. My final project was inspired initially by my participation in my school's Hispanic Student Alliance. As someone who has taken French throughout all of high school, I've not been able to experience or delve deeper into Spanish or the Hispanic culture. One morning, I was listening to an episode of the New York Times Daily podcast titled Biden's Border Dilemma about the new root causes strategy, and I was instantly intrigued. I wanted to learn more about the strategy and the issues facing Central America, as well as eventually educate others on this topic. My goal was to determine the overall effectiveness of the strategy on the root causes of Central American migration. I used a series of sub-questions to guide my research, such as, do the listed policy objectives align with the current issues of the migration crisis? How is this strategy different from those of the past in addressing Central American migration? And has the administration followed through on their strategy? To determine the overall effectiveness, I used data and information from those policymakers in Central America, met with an individual who works at the United States Agency for International Development, and compared my current findings to those historical policy options. I eventually decided to create a comprehensive analysis of the strategy in the form of a research paper. I split my analysis into 7 different sections: an introduction into why migration is an issue and why this new strategy is relevant, the reversal of Trump administration immigration policies like the Remain in Mexico policy and Title 42, which still remained under Biden's control, and an overview of the strategy itself, an assessment of the strategy's progress following 1 year of implementation, past approaches to Central America, engagement with alternative perspectives, and finally, a call to action. In my initial research, I found that the number of migrants fleeing their homes and traveling to the United States had risen from over 450,000 people arriving at the US border in 2020 to around 1.7 million, with more than 189,000 individuals reaching the border in the singular month of June 2021. These numbers have risen at drastic rates, as the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change have particularly exacerbated this problem. The majority of these migrants were fleeing from what is known as the Northern Triangle, a section of Central America made up by the countries Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. This was the area that the root causes strategy sought to target. You might be wondering, what is the root causes strategy? Well, it's a strategy that seeks to promote a democratic, prosperous, and safe Central America where people advance economically, live, work, and learn in safety and dignity, contribute to and benefit from the democratic process, have confidence in public institutions, and enjoy opportunities to create futures for themselves and their families at home. Essentially, this approach seeks to find the root cause of the immigration problem, the strained economic, political, and social conditions in immigrants' own home countries that caused them to leave in the first place. This strategy is a novel approach by the Biden administration. Historically, there have been no cohesive policy approaches to Central American migration. Many of the US policies or ideas in place have primarily focused on immigrants' rights in the US or life once an immigrant arrives in the US. This strategy seeks to improve life in Central America so that Central Americans are not forced to leave their homes in the first place. The administration also claimed that it will be utilizing local, non-governmental, faith-based partnerships and aid programs for implementation. The strategy itself is divided into 5 different pillars. The first being to address economic security and inequality. The second, to combat corruption, strengthen democratic governance, and advance the rule of law. Third, to promote respect for human rights, labor rights, and a free press. Fourth, to counter and prevent violence, extortion, and other crimes. And lastly, to combat sexual, gender-based, and domestic violence. After conducting my research, I found many failures within the rule of law, localizing aid, inclusive economic policy, and human migration policy. I also found many connections to neocolonialism and white saviorism, or the ideology of white people who believe that they have far superior skills and knowledge and therefore are required to save those with far less knowledge. While the initiative seeks to improve life for Central Americans, it does so in a way that simultaneously converts those citizens to living a more traditional American lifestyle. By providing more access to education and job opportunities based on American culture, the United States can secure its dominance over the region. With more individuals speaking and learning English, wearing American clothes, and working jobs that produce goods for America, the United States displays its undeniable hegemonic power. This, as well as the use of obligations, which are binding agreements that will result in payment either in that year or in the future, creates a sense of dependence on the US. Additionally, while the administration claimed that it would be utilizing local and grassroots organizations for the majority of its projects, similar to past approaches to foreign aid, the United States has relied on project-based assistance programs from USAID. The majority of USAID projects are given to large for-profit companies based in the United States, often with no specialization in the areas targeted by the projects, with 1/4 of these projects going to for-profit companies in 2019. So I concluded that thus far, the strategy has been overall unsuccessful. In conclusion, I believe that the strategy has the potential to be overall successful, yet it requires a shift in the way that we think about third world countries, as well as a reshaping of the strategy itself. I believe that the necessary steps in improving the root causes strategy are as follows: reshaping the way the US conducts foreign aid, shifting our thinking and approaches to immigration, a shift towards local and grassroots organizations rather than large for-profit companies based in the US, working towards improving and expanding legal pathways for migrants, implementing sustainable development systems and programs to assist the Northern Triangle in adequately responding to climate change, and finally, increasing awareness and education around the issue and the strategy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rosa. Quick question. What type of shift in thinking were you talking about related to immigration that you think should happen?
I think as of right now, we are more concerned with what we believe the issues are in Central America rather than actually talking to those living in Central America and then them coming to us and saying, this is what we need. Can you help us with this? We just assume that we know what they need and what they want rather than what they actually want and need.
Gotcha. So if you had unlimited resources, what would be like the next step that you would take to kind of solve this issue?
It sounds pretty simple, but honestly, just sitting down and meeting with policymakers and leaders in Central America, because despite all of the kind of glorified language within the actual strategy, that hasn't happened. A lot of the policymaking has just happened in the US and with US officials rather than actually in Central America. So I would start with just conversations before even considering what kind of building or what kind of money was going into it.
Gotcha. And final question, do you see yourself continuing to do some more research around this in the future?
Yes, definitely.
Cool. Are you a junior or a senior?
Senior.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sure college will offer you many opportunities to do this. Thank you so much for your presentation today.
Thank you.